Hey, what's up? My name is Daoud Heidami. I am a real estate agent, co-founder and principal of the Catalyst team at Compass, and welcome back to a New York conversation where we talk to notable New Yorkers about their New York. And our goal really is to support our small businesses. So when we repost the interview, we'll be tagging the small businesses that our guests talk about. And we're excited to have and be here for our New Yorkers and support these small businesses. So we're also proud to be part of an upcoming gala, and for Trinity Place Shelter, whose mission it's to help LGBTQIA plus youth in NYC safely transition out of the shelter system. So it's going to be so much fun. I love Trinity Place Shelter, and it's going to be an in-person gala. It's going to be at Hudson Yards, and the Trinity Place Shelter gala is going to be in person. So check it out. Come join us. It's October 28th, and it's going to be a fun night. Okay, so tonight I'm super excited to have a friend of mine on tonight, Bret Shuford. Bret is a Broadway TV and film actor. You've seen him probably. He's graced the Broadway stages, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast. He's also known as the Broadway Life Coach, which I'm excited to chat with him about. And I'm here. And he's also one half of the Broadway Husbands, which is so exciting and fun. What's up?
What's up?
How you doing, man?
Good. I'm so happy to see you.
I wore my Houston shirt today because I'm representing Houston love, which is.
I wore my U.S. Open shirt because I'm representing that New York love. So,
how are you?
I'm doing well.
I'm really pumped to have you on because you have been you are an entrepreneur, and you are I'm excited to talk to you about all of the journey that you've been on. I want to hear your New York story, and I'm excited to hear about your small businesses which is our main objective, to get as much small businesses support and love for our New Yorkers as possible. So tell me a little bit about your New York journey and your New York story.
Yeah, sure. Well, the first time I ever went to New York was we took a family trip. I have three brothers, so all six of us drove up the East Coast from Texas, and I was 9 years old. And as my mom likes to tell people, I walked out of Port Authority, of all places, and I've said, and I was 9 years old, and I said, I'm home.
Oh, wow.
So I fell in love with New York and feel like I spent most of my childhood trying to get there. And in college, I think the next time I went to New York, I was in high school, and our choir got to sing at Carnegie Hall. And I was 15, and I got to sing my first solo at Carnegie Hall at 15 years old. I was super proud of myself.
Yeah. So were you growing up? Were you taking singing lessons? What was your childhood like before you came to New York? Because not many people get off of the Penn Station and go, "This feels like home."
No, I started performing when I was 6. That's what I wanted to do. Community theater locally was pretty much all that there was access to, but I loved musicals. I wanted to sing and dance. I knew at 6 years old that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and which is weird. A lot of kids don't know what they want to do that young,
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, so I spent my whole childhood doing community theater and then training, and I took acting classes, and Houston was the largest local, closest largest city, so I would take acting classes professionally there, and I got an agent. I read a book where Fred Savage and Debbie Gibson talked about how they had an agent, and so I went to my mom. I was 11. I said, "Mom, I need an agent." I didn't even know what that meant. So we got an agent in Houston, and I auditioned for local commercials and TV, and then like I said, I sang at Carnegie Hall, and then right out of high school, I did my first professional theater at an equity theater in Galveston, Texas, which doesn't exist anymore. But there were all of these actors there from Broadway who were working there. And it was
Yeah.
the first, I was so green. I mean, I just turned 18. I'd just come out of the closet. Like I didn't know anything. And I met all these people and I was like, this is my future, and
Yeah.
I just knew this is what I wanted to do. And all they talked about was New York. I'd never lived there. And, but I went to college.
Yeah.
And my first 2 years of college,
Where'd you go?
my first 2 years of college, I was at the University of Oklahoma, of all places.
Oh, get out of here.
And I was like, what am I doing in Oklahoma? I want to be in New York. So I transferred my junior year to Wagner College, which is a liberal arts school on Staten Island.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool.
So a kid from Texas who went to school in Oklahoma is now living in the dorms in Staten Island. It was a very, with a lot of culture shock happening. I was very blonde and happy and cheery, and everyone was from New Jersey and Brooklyn, and they were like, "What the fuck you smiling at?"
Oh my God, that's so funny. Wow. So I have so many Texas questions, but I'm not going to go there only because I grew up in Houston, and I know Galveston. Was it Galveston Playhouse that you did all of your shows?
No, it was the Galveston Island Outdoor Musicals.
Okay, yes,
summer stuff.
Because I went to Sam Houston State University in Huntsville, Texas, which is where a majority of the people that went to school there did their summer stock was in Galveston. I was like, Galveston, what?
Yeah.
I'm getting a job. I'm getting a summer job but anyway, so I want to hear two things. I want to hear about your recipe for your success in your craft, and I want to hear about a pivotal moment in your career, in your Broadway career. Because then I also this is kind of I'm short circuiting with you because you have so many careers, and I love that. It's the sign of someone who's super successful, that I admire so greatly. So tell me a little bit about your recipe for success.
Well, to me, success is really, especially for creatives, as an artist and as a creative, called Muggles measure success. In that, a lot of businesses and careers, they measure your success by the levels at which you accelerate to. And once you become a CEO or the head manager or whatever it is, you're successful. And as a creative and as an artist, it's much harder to measure that because so much is not within our control.
Right.
I like to define success as being measured by the actions you take on a daily basis, not the results that you make. Because the actions you take on a daily basis, if they're coming from the person you want to be, the person you desire to be, and every day you're taking steps to become that person, you are successful. And I think that a big part of that is connecting and people and relationships. I think that's a huge part. And I think that's really challenging for some people who want to isolate and want to be discovered. And ultimately, I think that's one of the reasons why I became a coach, is like to help push people into putting their work out into the world and building confidence through that, and moving through whatever that resistance is. So I like to say success lies in the actions you take.
Yeah, I love that. I think one of your posts today, because I've been Instagram stalking you, is are you an artist or are you a creator? And I love that, because I think that as an artist to kind of you have to be a creator. I think that you can't, because a creator is creating their own destiny. They're creating content for themselves. They're not waiting on whether or not the essence of who they are is right for the story that's being written by someone else. And there's something that is really I love. So I love the questions that you're asking with your life coach career. That's really, I think, right on point.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your. So continue your story about once you finished. So you were at Wagner College. Then what happens next? Because I want to hear about the pivotal moment in your career. Because we're at college, and then all of a sudden you have all of this really wonderful success as an actor.
Yeah, well, I didn't know. I mean, I was a kid from a small town in Texas, so I just was curious. I just was ambitious and curious. I would just go see everything, and I would go to the stage door and shake hands with everybody, and I would reach out to people and say, hey, like, I want to do what you do. Like, can I have coffee with you? And so I'm at Wagner College. I ended up instead of, when everyone go to Cancun for spring break, I would stay in New York and take classes at like Broadway Dance Center and audition for things. And I ended up booking my first equity show, which was at Paper Mill Playhouse. And my senior year, I was rehearsing at Paper Mill and then going back and doing the final musical at the college. So I was like commuting to Staten Island after rehearsal. It was insane. And then I ended up getting my equity card. And of course, a big challenge for me at that time was I graduated in May 2001. So 3 months after that was when the tower, went down. And there was a lot of tools that I just did not have to be able to handle that. I was very depressed, very scared.
Yeah.
And then, I think I'm pretty open about this, but I made a decision to get sober, and that was a huge decision for me. And I think actually probably the most pivotal moment for me personally and professionally, because in making that decision to put down drugs and alcohol and really focus on self-care and committing to a program and doing personal development work and being of service to others and understanding all of those things, which I didn't have those tools before.
Wow.
It was through that I booked my, like 3 months after I got sober, I booked my first Broadway show.
Wow.
Right? But there was no coincidence to me that learning how to function at a higher level as a human being helped me then succeed in my career goals and become the person I really saw myself as a child, wanted to do. So,
wow.
and being I couldn't have done any of that if I hadn't been in New York.
Yeah. So what was that show?
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang was my first Broadway show.
Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. I love that. What a great musical that is. It's one of my favorites. So, so what was life like in New York? Where were you living? And where was this, like through an agent? Were you doing like the calls in the morning? Like, how did that all happen? And how does New York play a role in all of this for you?
Well, New York is really the only place where you can make a full-time living as an actor. So, I mean, maybe Los Angeles, but even that, it's not full-time because, a lot of that stuff only shoots here and there. And so New York, I think, is magical for anyone who loves theater and who wants to make a living doing that, because that's really the only place where you really have the opportunity to do that. I was living in Astoria, Queens, in a house actually with 3 of my college friends
from Wagner.
We all lived together. 2 of them were a couple. They lived in the basement, and then my best friend Scott Barnhart lived upstairs, and he was in the original cast of Book of Mormon.
Oh.
And then I lived upstairs in another bedroom, and I never thought it was so cool to have a house. It needed major renovations, but we were in our 20s and we didn't care. And Astoria was such an easy commute to Midtown. I really loved the train because you could be above ground and you could be on your cell phone for a little bit. And I find the commute from Astoria to Midtown to like the theater district much easier than really any place I ever lived. I lived in Heights. I lived in, well, I lived in the East Village, but even I loved living in the East Village, but even that commute to Midtown wasn't quite as easy as Astoria for some reason.
Yeah, it's because the train lines are going all the way uptown from the east side, and not unless you take the BDF, but the F is.
But even that, you have to. I'd have to walk 6 blocks down to the F, or I'd have to walk from Second Avenue to Astor Place for the NR, which was not bad. It was great.
Yeah. Do you remember what you paid in rent for your first apartment?
Oh my gosh.
Was your Astoria apartment, was that your New York? I guess Wagner, really, Staten Island was really your first apartment, right? What were you paying in rent there?
I lived in the dorms.
Oh, awesome.
So that was my first, but what was cool about the dorm at Wagner, because in Staten Island, the dorm I lived in had a view of the of New York Harbor. So I could see Manhattan from my room, and I could see the ferries crossing over. I mean, it was magic to see all the Twin Towers when they were there.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool.
And what were you paying in rent?
And I don't remember what the dorms cost, but I do remember when I moved to Astoria, right after that, I sublet somebody's apartment in Astoria, and I think I paid $500 for the room.
Yeah. I remember when I was in grad school, I went to grad school at UC San Diego, and we had, because you're talking about grad school housing, I had grad school, I had grad school housing. I was in a 2-bedroom, and I was paying $325 a month. And like, I could see the ocean, like we were right there in La Jolla. It was kind of like mind boggling. So I don't know. It's so funny thinking about that back in the day. You think about like where you lived and how little you paid to live there, and like a big part of the other folks that we've been interviewing, the other notable New Yorkers about this conversation is like people would pay even more to live in a 5th floor walk up with 6 roommates because they're in New York.
Yep.
And so there's that New York magic that happens. When has New York always been magical for you? I know you talked about arriving at 9 years old and you were like, this is your place. Why?
I love New York because I grew up in a place in a small town where everyone liked the same thing and everyone did and sort of conformed, I guess is the right.
Yeah.
I didn't conform. I was different. I was passionate about, weird and gay and nerdy things. And
yeah.
And so in New York, I just saw this place where you could be into whatever you wanted. And
you can be yourself.
And no one would care. Like you can blend in and there's so much to do. I would never get bored. So New York was always this inspirational place. Now, was it always easy? No. I mean, it's so, like you said, it's super expensive and you pay for location over quality of life. And so you kind of have to take that with it, right? It's there's always, I think that no matter where you live, there's always going to be things that you sacrifice. And I think the biggest thing is sacrificing space.
Yes.
In order to share that experience, you have to let other people have space, and that it takes away from your own space.
That's right. Yes. So yeah, you are constrained by space in New York for sure, rather than Houston, where you're gonna have a yard and forget about it. Yeah. I always loved going home to Houston, actually, visiting family, and I love it there. But like I always come back to New York and I'm like, I love it here. And during COVID, there was all of like living here and being close to the park was important because it was like I live right by Fort Tryon Park, so there was always like having that was such an integral part for me, and I found that that was kind of like my favorite. Like I had a corner there. It was my favorite corner. I want to hear about you. What's your New York favorite corner?
We lived in the East Village for 10 years. I'm so sorry, I have the tickle in my throat.
No, that's okay. So was this in the midst of Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, or
No,
was it after?
no.
And,
So I lived in Astoria, and then I met my husband Steven,
yes.
and
Who's delightful and
yeah.
and a joy and such a warm, pleasant. Like I've talked to him a couple times, and he was such a warm individual. I really enjoyed chatting with him in the past. So please send him my love.
I will. He'll love that. He'll later. He's teaching right now.
Oh.
We were dancing at New York City Ballet at the time, and he actually moved to Astoria, which is kind of part of our falling in love story, because he ended up getting an apartment. We were friends, and he ended up calling me one day. He's like, I just got an apartment in Astoria. And I was like, where is it? And it was literally half a block from my apartment, and he didn't know it. That's when it all started. So, so that was 2006. And then we got our first apartment together in Astoria.
Yeah.
We lived in it for about 2 years. And then in 2010, we bought our apartment in the East Village. So we actually purchased our first home.
Yeah.
And something we never thought we'd be able to do, to own Manhattan property. Yeah. But we were very lucky at the time to be able to do that. And so that was 2010. And it was a 4th floor walk up, about 600 square feet, with a washer and dryer in it. Very nice.
Nice. That's key.
And Tompkins Square Park was a block and a half away. We were right on 2nd Avenue and 7th Street, right next to Stomp. And I would say that block, 7th Street, between 1st and 2nd, is just that there was a coffee place there that I craved daily.
What was it called?
It's called the Brazzo.
Oh, is it still around?
Oh, yeah.
Brazzo, like I-B-R?
I-B-R-A, and then C. It's like a Brazilian C with the little thing underneath. Oh.
I love that.
The best cold brew that's how I got addicted to cold brews, because that place. Yeah. And that block right there, I would get up in the morning, because the East Village, as rowdy as it is on a Saturday night, we were right off of St. Mark's Place.
Yeah.
On a Sunday morning, it's the quietest place. And I could get up at like 9 a.m., go to Brazzo, stand outside, have a cold brew. And it was just cool. It's just the vibe is just really nice.
I love that. I did a play at New York Theater Workshop, so 4th Street and 2nd Avenue. So like, I mean, it was just like, I loved it there. And at the time I was living in Brooklyn, so I would take the B and get off at the Broadway Lafayette and walk up. I might pass by the John Varvatos store, the CBG, and I walk
Yeah,
on the way to the theater, just because and then we'd go and hang out after. It was just like it's a great corner. And I remember talking to Steven about this apartment that y'all had, and I was like, oh, that's a great location, especially to be New York City homeowners.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more. I want to hear. Why did you come to New York is really easy for you, because it was like you were driven by your passion, and you had a family that was like super. It sounds like super giving and super like. I have to say this, but like not many people allow their kids to move to New York to pursue a career in the acting industry. So like it says a lot about like your family to be able to be like, I'm giving giving you this opportunity. So like, God bless them. Major shout out.
Yeah, it's funny with them. I think that they didn't have a huge choice because I was like, I'm doing this with or without you, you know. And they were just like, well, we love you, so we'll support it.
Yeah, that's great. But that's an energy, you know, that's something that they didn't fight. It sounds like they didn't fight you on.
It didn't.
You know, so that says a lot about them, and it says a lot about you, about how driven and focused you are in pursuit of your passions, and drive is something that you can't really teach. It's inherent, I think. So,
I think.
Yeah. What were you gonna say?
I think that's true. I think you can't teach drive. Like you either have it or you don't. You know you can choose it.
Yeah.
But I don't know that you can teach it.
No, you can't teach it. You can't. Yeah, it's either you're either doing it or you're not, and you got to kind of. It goes back to, are you an artist or are you a creator?
Yeah.
I think it's full circle there. You know, you got to be able to do that. Okay, so we named one coffee shop in the East Village. I want to hear about some of the small businesses you love. Because this is what it's about. New Yorkers supporting each other. When we repost this, I'll tag them and hopefully give them as much love as they deserve.
Okay. There's a restaurant called the Brindle Room on 10th Street. Have you been there?
I have not.
Oh, the cheeseburger is the richest and most gourmet, melt in your mouth burger. Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
I got in trouble a couple times with Steven because I would actually order it for delivery and he's like, you cannot, like, no, like that's like a restaurant you go and you sit down and you eat there. Like it's not but I was like, but I was craving it. It's so good. So, and then they're like in that area, Abrazo, Brindle Room were like my two kind of East Village staple places. Of course, you know, the restaurants that everyone loves in the East Village, like Veselka. Veselka, which is like the Ukrainian. Yeah, Veselka, which is the Ukrainian place of, you know, because where we were was really like very much, and, you know, it's probably gentrifying a little bit, but it was very much a Ukrainian community.
Mm.
So the Ukrainian restaurants over there are amazing. And then right sort of Veselka was a kids like children's store, and I'm blanking on the name, but quite often we would like go into Veselka and then just like wander through this little kids toy store that was just the cutest thing, and that's on right off of 9th Street. I can't think of it. I'm totally blanking on the name of it.
Okay.
So we'll have to look it up.
Okay, yeah, and then let me know because we'll tag them. Was it so? When did you like? So much of this is so fun for me because you kind of lived all over the place, right? You lived you started in Staten Island, then you were at Astoria, and then you went straight to East Village. Was that kind of your journey?
Yeah, and then we lived in Washington Heights for a little bit. We rented out our East Village apartment, and we lived up on 160th and Riverside.
Oh, that's right. I remember Steven talking about this. Yes.
Yeah, and we rented a place in an amazing building there called River Arts. Really nice building with like, you know, and we had a view of the Hudson and we could watch the sunsets from our apartment. That was lovely. But I will tell you, I hated the commute. I hated the commute.
Oh, really?
We were spoiled after living in the East Village because, you know, like living in the East Village, walk to Union Square, I could walk to the Lower East Side, I could walk to Tompkins Square Park. I would get on a city bike and I could be in Midtown in 20 minutes. You know,
yeah, that's true.
You just can't do that from Washington Heights.
But you can. Well, not 20 minutes, but you take the A you take the A to, you know, because it goes express from 125th to 59th.
Yeah, if you're on the A, we were on the 1.
Well, you take the 1. I sound like I live in LA. You take the 405 to the 101. You take the A uptown to 168th, and then transfer to the. You take the C up. Well, you take the 1, go uptown to 168, transfer, and then take the A express down, and then boom, boom.
It was, yeah.
No, you're not.
I would sometimes, and then also on Sundays the train always would shut down or go local or something, and I never really got my groove. I wish we had been on the A. I would have preferred. I liked the Blue Line trains. They're a little bit bigger, a little more comfortable. I wish we'd been on like an express stop, because that made it a little bit more challenging commuting to the theater district.
Sure.
But you would get home and we had twice the space, and we had an elevator, and we had this view of the Hudson. So, you know, you always kind of,
it's a trade-off.
You always kind of trade things, you know?
It's so funny, but I have this conversation today with one of my clients with real estate. They're debating about purchasing a property downtown that has like a walk-up that's more expensive, or you move uptown where you have all the amenities, but the commute is just a little bit longer. It's a yin-yang, what's your quality of life kind of question that ultimately it boils down to, and your gut. Okay, so I want to play this fun word association game where we talk about. I'm going to throw out some New York things, and then I want to hear what your fun response is going to be, or not fun. You know, whatever.
Okay.
So let's do some favorite New York live performance.
Favorite New York City live performance. Oh gosh. Bonnie Raitt outdoors at Lincoln Center.
Oh,
it was epic.
Wow, when was that?
2018.
Wow.
She performed for the Lincoln Center like summer jazz festival, and she came out there, and it was incredible. I mean, I think I cried. I think at one point we were like at the front stage, like clapping. I mean, it was
That sounds like a good time. I hope that festival still continues. I think it does, and I hope it continues, especially post COVID. Tell me your commuting pet peeve.
Commuting pet peeve. Oh, there's so many. Probably the biggest is, I mean, can I just say MTA in general? I mean, like when they lie, when they say, oh, it'll be here in, 5 minutes, and then it's not there. And
yeah, you know what's cool is they have stepped their game up in a lot of ways. The MTA. I'm gonna give some MTA love here, which is that like they not only have all of these signs on the subway platforms that tell you like when the train is actually coming, which was a huge step up from when I first moved here. It was just like you're just hanging out until it shows up.
Yep. So
it gives you an idea of like it's coming in 1 minute, and it's or 3 minutes or 30 minutes, but at least you manage your expectations, which is kind of great. And then they, believe it or not, their MTA app is actually on point, so you can actually click on their MTA app and get an idea of when the train is coming. So you can kind of, if you live within a 4 or 5 minute walk, you can time your leaving of your apartment. Which, giving it up to the MTA for the first time, when they get you is on the weekends when they're doing track work, and then they local.
Yeah, that's the hard part is like when you're working on Broadway, you're usually working when other people aren't.
Yes.
Because they're coming hopefully to see your show.
Yes.
But that means trying to get to work on a 2-show Sunday, and the MTA is doing track work becomes like a whole 3-act play.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth? I've run into that a couple times, and I'm like, oh gosh, I better leave actually, especially early. But the great thing is the technology has changed, at least in the last before COVID started. They were just starting, and now it's kind of transformed in the last year and a half, which is I can't believe I'm giving a lot of love to the MTA. What is happening? But I actually am, and it's good to manage my timing expectations in that way. Give me your favorite pizza joint. It's New York pizza joint.
Man, oh gosh. Pizzeria's Pizza in Midtown. It was, I think they changed locations, but they were right next door to the Lunt-Fontanne, like right between the Lunt-Fontanne Theater and the Scientologist building.
Oh.
And they had the best grandma's pizza. Like I would get like a between shows slice there, you know, when I was in my 20s. I don't know that I would today, but I love pizzerias.
Awesome. What about your favorite brunch spot? Do you have a brunch spot?
Oh gosh. Clinton Street Baking Company.
Oh, in Brooklyn?
No, it's on Lower East Side on Clinton Street.
Okay.
Right off of Houston. And you can get like a flight of pancakes, and you can get, I mean, they have sugar cured bacon.
Oh.
It's the jam.
Right on.
It's so good.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's awesome. They sound like a good place to check out. So I'm excited that I'm actually talking to you because a big part of the last, I guess, couple of weeks, they had the Broadway is Back Tony Awards, which is kind of really great. A bunch of our friends are in rehearsals or are opening on Broadway. So it's kind of like really, really great to have Broadway up and running again.
Yeah.
So like there's a really great because so much of this and New Yorkers and artists and small businesses, and it's great to see this renaissance of New York happening again. I'm personally planning on going to see To Kill a Mockingbird, hopefully in the near future. Maybe Moulin Rouge. Like there's some like lots of support, love that's happening. So I have two more questions in it, and then. For you, but I want those folks who are watching to know that we're doing this every Tuesday night, 7:00, where we talk to our favorite New Yorkers about their New York, and hearing these stories is kind of really wonderful and amazing. Thank you for sharing this, Bret. It's nice to get to know about your journey and hearing about your New York and the support of these small businesses. So if you're living in New York, support these small businesses. If you're not, come visit us, because the travel restrictions are going away really rapidly here. So we look forward to having you back here in the city. So Bret, tell me about your favorite place to take a tourist when they come visit.
Oh gosh, there's so many things because I love the history of New York, but it depends on like their interest. But I would probably say like the thing downtown, anything like, Wall Street area, that's probably the origins of New York. I love that area, like doing a little walking tour of Wall Street, Francis Tavern, and then maybe like going to the African burial ground down there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's a very underappreciated piece of land and history, and there's a really cool museum associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that's probably what I would do.
I love it. I realized before I asked you the last question, I actually want to hear about your Broadway Life Coach. Can you share that with us and what exactly and what that is to you, and how you work with actors with your experience in this business?
Yeah, well, mostly what it's sort of evolved over the last 2 years with the pandemic, but I help creatives really finally have the courage to put their work out into the world. And a lot of what's evolved into is social media and personal brands marketing, helping to build their presence and helping creatives extend creativity. And so I work with all kinds of, not just actors, but artists and creators who want to be visible and want to be known and want to be able to make a living doing what they love.
Hmm. That's lovely. So how do people reach out?
You can just go to my website, bretshuford.com. I offer a free discovery session. So if anyone's interested, they can book a free call and we can just see if it's a fit. No obligation. And I love meeting people, meeting artists and supporting them. So hopefully if that's you.
Yeah, I noticed that. I love that you do that where you can easily reach out and set up a time to talk and see if it works and like what a valuable give to anyone who can take and seize that opportunity. So I love that. I love what you're doing. Keep it up. It's really inspiring and it's wonderful work. Okay, give me your weirdest only in New York moment.
Oh my God. Uh, oh my gosh, there's so many. I'm trying to think how PG be.
If you have more than one, let's hear it.
I mean, there's been so many things like, just being on the subway after yoga one day. I am literally, it's very empty, like 10 a.m. and I hopped on the A train. I was going up to Midtown and I looked to my right and there's no one else on the train. And I looked to my right and sitting on the same bench as me is this woman who looked really familiar. And I just looked at her and I said, "Excuse me, are you Sara Bareilless?" And she goes, "Yes." My God. Like, I'm such a fan. I was like, I love your music. And I was like, and Waitress hadn't even opened yet. I was like, I can't wait to see Waitress. And she's like, well, what do you do? And we had this whole conversation about the show I was doing. And she's like, ooh, I'm going to come see it. And all these people we know. And then we got off the train and just went our own way. And I was like, that woman has changed so many young people's lives with her music. I just happened to casually have a conversation with her on the train,
Yeah.
That's like an only moment.
That's totally an only in New York moment. Wow. She's so talented.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Kathy Cyril, who I don't know if you know, but she's also this really talented actor, had a New York moment with Harrison Ford where they both had coffees and they were walking and I think she acknowledged him, he acknowledged her back, and they just kept walking. And obviously, it was kind of like a lovely. It's funny how you have these sightings of people you admire and who are super talented, and you.
I'll tell one other. It was
okay.
There was a place on 43rd Street called Green Symphony that I would go to between shows a lot.
Yes.
They had a lot of healthy options, but they also had like this buffet. I can't imagine they're doing the buffet at this moment, but they always have like curried vegetables thing. I would always get. So I'm at the buffet and I'm scooping some stuff and somebody's next to me scooping their plate. And I look and I was like, "You're Martha Plimpton." And she just goes, "Yes."
Uh-huh.
And don't try the chicken.
Hey, I love that. She took care of you in that moment. Oh my God. Bret, you're amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Congrats on all of your success. Thank you for sharing your New York love and all of these like really wonderful small businesses. I'll tag them in the repost of this interview. Much love to you and Stephen. All the best success with your Broadway Life Coach and Broadway Husbands. Thank you so much.
Sending you a big hug.
I love that. I love that. All right, take care. Be well.
Bye.
Bye.